Alex Lowe is an actor, comedian, and voice artist known as the creator and performer of the character Barry from Watford, as well as the character Clinton Baptiste. And he's here with us today. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great, yeah, as well as I can be doing, I think. So,
Yes, good.
first of all, how did Barry from Watford originally come about?
Well, Barry is sort of based on all my Cockney relatives from southeast London who, when I was growing up, I'm considerably older than you, but when I was growing up, we had old people who were like properly old. They weren't like you get nowadays, old people pretending to be very young and dressing like their grandkids.
Yeah.
So it was sort of based on all my Cockney relatives who were, during the Second World War, were kind of encouraged to leave, London. It was very dangerous. And so a lot of them moved out to the suburbs where I still live now. So I sound very middle class and posh, but they were all Cockney ding-dongs from the East End of London. So they moved out during the war to South Harrow, which is just in northwest London. And I'm not far from there now. I live in Watford. So I think that's sort of who it's based on, all the Cockneys who left London for the suburbs.
Yeah, and I guess when you started phoning into Iain Lee shows, was that the first time you kind of performed him in a way?
Yeah, I really wanted to do. I mean, it was a shameless attempt to try a new character out.
Yeah.
And Iain had. I used to do a show on XFM. Now it's called Radio X. And I had a Sunday show for like a couple of years. And Iain, who I met doing the 11 o'clock show years and years ago, phoned up once as a character called Mike from Camden Town, which sounded exactly like Ian from Muswell Hill. And so when Iain started doing a show on LBC, I thought I would try this character that I'd always wanted to do based on my Cockney lot. And he didn't really realise it was me at first. Then about 5 minutes in, I think he sort of got it.
Yeah.
But I think at the start, he didn't really realise.
Yeah, I've always wondered that if he realised at the start, but I guess not. It wasn't really. He wasn't in on it.
No,
So
not
I guess
really. He was after a
eventually,
while.
yeah, I guess eventually
Yeah.
you must have decided that he was going to be a regular thing. How did you kind of agree on that?
Well, we didn't really agree. I just, the thing is, if you are a performer, this is not meant to sound pretentious. If you're a massive show off, you will find any opportunity, any little chink in the dam to kind of push your creative waters through and flood the market. So, what a terrible analogy, but anyway. So it was a bit like, there are people like Peter Cook famously used to phone on LBC. What's his name? Who's that? Well, anyway, one of the presenters, and you would just find any means possible to explore your characters, and so I just used to phone quite often before going to bed. My wife would go up to bed, and I think, I might phone Iain. And, after a while it sort of seemed to work and people thought it was a real character. So we just used to do it all the time. But I didn't ever really say, Iain, tonight I'm going to phone up and we're going to talk about this. So it was all sort of improvised. And he's such a brilliant improviser. It was easy.
Yeah, and I suppose that was always the highlight of the show when Barry phoned in, because it was always so funny. And how do you manage to stay so sharp with all the stuff that you come up with?
Well, I don't know. That's very kind of you to say so. But trust me, I've listened back to some of them, and I think, God, that's terrible. I mean, a lot of it was a bit smutty, and double entendres and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, really. I think, to be honest, I really wanted to do it as a character, and it wasn't just a fun thing. So I sort of did treat it quite seriously. And so, yeah, I mean, the thing is, Iain makes it so easy, and he sort of instinctively picked up on the fact that what it should be is quite often some sort of antagonism between Barry and Iain.
Yeah.
It's the obvious. That's how you create drama, isn't it? By having some sort of something between them that's not going right.
And another presenter's show that you've appeared on is Steve Wright. So how did you manage to get on his show?
Well, amazingly, there used to be, now you will never remember this, but there was a newsreader on Radio 2 called Fenella Fudge, of all things, great name.
Yeah.
And I think she used to listen to me on Iain's show.
Oh.
And she got in touch with Steve Wright. I don't know whether she recorded me or something, but she spoke to Steve, and I maybe sent in a demo. And I must have sent in something, I think. But anyway, we did it one week. And he was saying, let's have this idea. We need a purpose for you to be there, like a lifestyle guru. And Steve Wright, like Iain Lee, is so kind of bright and switched on about ideas, been in the business for years and years. And so I did it the first week, and then he said, "Do you want to come back?" And it became a sort of semi-regular thing. As far as I know, I'm still employed there. No one's ever told me I'm not doing it. But it's been, a few years now since I've done it, maybe a couple of years. And so, it was thrilling. For someone like me to work with Steve Wright, so great.
Yeah, I guess that's an incredible opportunity. And I guess we need him back on the show to know how he's doing during lockdown and everything.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, I always think, someone like Barry is a real comforting presence. He's sort of everyone's granddad. I would love to do something like that. I'd love to get back on there. But actually, at the moment, I'm doing a Sunday show on BBC Three Counties. So that's on a Sunday for the whole of August. And I would love to come back and do some more with them. But, I don't leave any stone unturned.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about Clinton Baptiste here, how did you sort of come up with him? Because he was originally in Phoenix Nights, wasn't he?
That's right. Well, I work with Iain. What's his name? What's his name? What am I
Peter
talking
Kay.
About? Not Iain Lee. Peter Kay. So sorry. Sorry, Peter. Yeah, I did a show at the Edinburgh Festival, which Peter Kay came to review for Edinburgh Nights for BBC Two. This is in the late 90s. And we sort of struck up a bit of a friendship and knocked around together a bit at the Edinburgh Festival. Then he put me in that Peter Kay thing, and then he phoned up and he offered me this part as Clinton Baptiste, which I've sort of resurrected a couple of times with other things he's done. And then in 2015 we did Comic Relief at Manchester Arena, Phoenix Nights Live, and I just said to Peter, I really would love to have this as a character to do on the circuit, and he very kindly let me do it. So I really have Peter to thank for that. It's entirely his creation, so it's great that I'm allowed to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess is it quite fun to have a character that sort of is a dodgepot, basically, and kind of isn't genuine, I suppose?
It's quite fun because I have quite a sort of a low embarrassment threshold, and I have quite a, I'm always friendly to people. I'm not really that abrasive with people, so it is lovely, always lovely with both Barry and Clinton. In the case of Barry, I literally have a prosthetic mask quite often, but to have a sort of a character to hide behind, and if you have a sort of larger than life character like that, you can say stuff and get away with it, and people understand you're doing it in character. So it is lovely to be able to do those things, and Clinton is such a charlatan. It's great fun to sort of play with that, and people are on board with it, and they understand he's a kind of real fake.
Yeah. And what I love is sometimes on Twitter, people will tweet him and see somebody on the news that looks vaguely like him, and Clinton's out of order.
Well, I know. I'm really delighted. That happens all the time. People sending horrible photos of people they found on the internet, rather cruelly, and suggesting it's Clinton. Yeah, you know what? I'm so delighted that anyone's interested. I'll always retweet those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout this August and kind of into winter time-ish, you're doing a tour, which I guess you're finally allowed to do now. So could you tell us just a little bit about that and what we can expect from the tour?
Well, I had been on tour with my first Clinton show, which is called The Paranormalist Returns.
Yeah.
And if I move that, you can see that's some of the scenery there from Clinton's show. And of course, the pandemic, really put paid to it. And it was a real disaster for me because it would sold so many tickets and we were going around the country and it was such great fun. And all the effort I'd put into the show, and like everyone, everyone's got these hard luck stories, but it sort of ended halfway through the tour. So in the 15, 16 months since, I've been writing a new show. People who still have tickets to the old show can exchange them for the new show. It's bigger, better. I don't know if it's funnier. I hope it's funnier. But it's got sort of, it's had slightly more production involved. So that's going around the country from September to December.
Yeah. And have you found that you've had perhaps a little bit more time to hone your craft during this year of not doing anything?
Well, I have, yeah. And I've done 2 series of my podcasts. One of them's coming out. Series 4 is coming out soon. And I have had a lot of time. I mean, what's typical is now I'm looking at my wall planner here. I've got sort of 10 days before I start rehearsals with my director to learn these lines. So like everything, you have months and months on end, and then suddenly there's not enough time to get it done. So I've got to really knuckle down and get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're doing so many dates across the whole country, so you're going to be quite busy. And one in particular that looks exciting, particularly for this station as it's based in Blackpool, is you're playing the Blackpool Tower. So I guess that must be quite exciting.
Very, very exciting. And for all you, is the word Blackpudlians? What's the word?
I believe so, yeah.
Right. For all you guys out there, I was there recently at the Leighton Institute, and I did a gig with Mick Miller, famous, way before your time, famous comedian, and I had a great time. And I went up and down Blackpool, did some publicity for my new show. And while we were there, we popped in and we didn't get very far. We didn't actually get into the Blackpool Tower. We had a chat with the people at the front, and I'm really, really excited. I cannot wait to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, is it quite rare that people are allowed to perform there? Because I guess it's often used for really big stuff like Strictly Come Dancing and stuff.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I have absolutely no idea, but since you say it, that's what I've been thinking.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing to go and do. I know Peter Kay did it, didn't he? I don't know if it's the same venue. I have no idea. But I know he played the Blackpool Tower. So maybe it is I don't know. I mean, when you go outside, you do see there are sort of theatrical things on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. But, it feels iconic to me to be playing.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I guess it's exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah. So another character that you've done kind of less frequently is Professor Joseph Levins as well.
Yes.
Which he's pretty interesting, to say the least. What sort of gave you the idea to do this kind of American scientist guy?
Joseph Levins is one of those kind of UFO... New Age nutcases.
Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to do a character, I can't remember, just, to phone up Iain Lee and say the kind of vaguest, stupidest things possible. Claim to have recordings of aliens, what have you. Yeah. It's always funny. A thing we do with Iain is I sit here at this very desk and draw, like you often get in sort of UFO documentary, someone saying, I didn't have a chance to take a photo. I quickly drew what I saw. Invariably, it's a terrible diagram of a UFO. Yeah. So we always do these funny, drawings that Clinton's done. Joseph has done. Yeah. And I send them immediately to Iain. But the problem is, particularly with that character, I don't know why it makes me laugh so much. There's quite a lot of sort of silences where I'm laughing, only because it's so ridiculous. And it makes me laugh actually with all the characters, when people really think they're true.
Oh, yeah.
They get angry. We did one once for Talk Radio with Iain, and someone got really furious at the end. I think it's the very end of one Talk Radio where I went into the studio and someone was absolutely livid. Or was that Joseph Levins? Maybe that was Clinton. But when people get livid and they think it's real, that's my favourite thing.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time, and it's like, come on. Like, I think it's maybe even enhanced now that the show is on Twitch, and you can see in the chat that usually people that are unsubscribed are like, is this guy for real?
Yeah. Well, that's it. I think probably, I mean, it's obviously, to me, it's obviously a joke, but if you just can sort of keep one foot in keeping it real, then that's the best thing. If it was somebody came and went, and did this kind of stupid voice, you would go, so it's really great to make the occasional thing sound plausible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's funny that he always talks in a kind of very serious voice, but most of what he's saying is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, and sometimes you can just slot something in. People think, what did he just say? You just slot it in sort of under the wire.
Yeah.
Like, I did it with a monkey, and I think that an alien done it with a monkey, that sort of thing. It's like people just about catch it.
Yeah, and I guess it's similar with Barry, but you can sort of get away with laughing in his voice sometimes as well.
Yeah, I think so, and you can do that. I can do that, and I think somehow Barry now has become. I've done Barry on TV and Steve Wright. I did it a bit on Big Brother. There used to be a spin-off called Big Brother's Big Mouth. I've done it on all sorts of things. Kind of people sort of know it's fake. Yeah. So if you do a slight nod to something, if you're laughing at something, people kind of know you're in on the joke as well.
Yeah, and you did Barry on a show with Noel Edmonds as well, Cheap, 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 which I guess was pretty exciting to be on the telly.
Yeah, I mean, like all of these things, you have really high hopes. And unfortunately, it came and went. It just, we did 31-hour episodes for Channel 4. And it's almost like no one saw it. It's incredible. I don't know how that happened. I suppose nowadays everyone's attention is drawn by, there's endless amounts of social media, endless amounts of digital platforms. And so I thought, this is a no-brainer. This is going to really be a great success. But it went out in the middle of summer. It went out at not a particularly good time. And I think it's one of those things where if it had a chance to breathe, it really would have been something. But I mean, some of it didn't really work. I'll admit that. But I think it could have been something. And it's a real shame it didn't.
Because Noel Edmonds is a big name, so you would have thought that people have watched it for him at least.
I suppose so. I think that it just... the quiz show was you had to guess the price of various items and which was the cheapest, everyday shopping items, which, to you and me might sound a bit dull, but for some people that's their everyday lives. And it's kind of fascinating. You just end up doing, I reckon that's cheaper than that. Yeah. And that was clearly the sort of base onto which you build this quiz show and also an element of sitcom. But I don't think, in all honesty, we had long enough to prepare for the sitcom element. And there was just so much random improvisation, 50% of it didn't work, that it just, the whole thing it was neither fish nor fowl. It was kind of all over the place. Yeah. But it's a real shame because it did have some great moments as well.
Yeah. And I guess maybe even if the concept sounds dull, it's sort of what happens in the show that sort of makes it. Like, most people that watched Top Gear probably weren't really car enthusiasts. They watched it for the personalities. Exactly that.
And I think, as I say, if we'd been given a bit longer, that we could definitely have achieved that.
Yeah.
And, there always used to be a thing, God, I really sound like someone's granddad, but on television where the BBC gave you the right to fail. Now, this wasn't the BBC. It was Channel 4, which is a similar, national corporation. Yeah. But there used to be a thing called the right to fail, where you try stuff out and they go, well, okay, let's tweak it. But in the brave new world, it's a bit like, that failed, forget that, move on, next thing. Yeah. And so things don't sometimes get a chance to breathe. Now, some people listening to this would say, I hated it. It was never going to be anything other than what it was. But I thought it was good.
Yeah. And when you first started doing Barry, it was just kind of phoning in and audio. So when did you decide that you wanted to put a face to the voice?
Well, I suppose I wanted to go and do the Edinburgh Festival, and in many ways, and just find a platform for Barry on the stand-up circuit.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways I shouldn't have got the prosthetic face. It's been an absolute millstone. It's you have to turn up an hour earlier than everyone, put it on. Sometimes it slips off on stage if I haven't put it on. You always get people going, "Oh, that your mask, I can see where it joins." It's like, yes, I know you can. I'm not a prosthetic expert. But then I think when you see people like Mrs. Merton, Caroline Aherne, who used to do a show where she just played an old lady, people's, they use their imagination, they suspend their disbelief. So I don't know that it was necessary for me to, put Barry's face on. But also, I was a younger man then, so I looked a lot younger. Nowadays, I don't need it because I'm getting so bleeding old.
Yeah. Well, that's the point. Do you think you'll still be doing Barry when you are, in fact, his age?
Good point. I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. But it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's not as funny if you're the real thing. It kind of adds a layer of something if you know someone's a lot younger. But you're right. I mean, I'm 53. I mean, that to you would seem ancient. So, I don't know whether I will. Maybe I will, or maybe Barry will morph into something else. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows? Maybe he will eventually age to be older than you. Well, older than 82.
Barry, I could age down. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good idea. Great idea.
Yeah. And as Clinton Baptiste, you do celeb VM messages as well, right?
I do a lot of those, celebrity dedications.
Yeah.
I've been doing, and thank God, because in the lockdown, in the terrible time we've had in the last 16 months maybe, it's kept the wolf from the door, because I couldn't do anything. I mean, I kept thinking, when you're an actor, you spend your whole time sort of auditioning, and then there's this opportunity that might happen, and this one narrowly misses, and then something gets delayed or cancelled. So I've always thought, the very least you can do is just get up on stage and do it for yourself. Now, this pandemic has proved that even that was bloody difficult, because you couldn't go and do stuff live. Yeah. So thank God for the celebrity dedications, because I would have been on the floor if I had nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just great to have something to do in these times.
Well, it is, but as I said, I did the podcast, I've written the new show. I cannot sit still. I mean, I cannot bear to, you hear these people say, "Oh, I had a lovely duvet day." It's like, I can't think of anything worse than sitting around. And I think that's a failing. I'd love to be able to relax a bit more, but I just can't.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I have to always be doing something, even if it's work. I'd rather do that than sit and be bored. It just makes me...
I couldn't agree more. And also, just as time gets on, my time is so precious. Yeah. The prospect of sitting around watching YouTube videos, or... I say that, I've just discovered TikTok. I can't leave it alone.
Oh, no. Oh, well, we need Barry from Watford and Clinton Baptiste to have their own TikTok videos. That's an idea.
Yes. Thank you. We'll do that.
Well, where are we able to keep up to date with you and book tickets for the Clinton Baptiste tour?
Okay, guys, I really need you to come and see this, because I do not want to be up and down the country, the only person in the building echoing on stage. I think there's a little bit of reluctance still about people to go out and about, but we need to kind of get the thing moving again. Please come to see the show, and you can go to clintonbaptiste.com/live. clintonbaptiste.com/live. All the details are there.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. It's been great having you here.
Okay. Thank you so much. Lovely to speak to you.